Cole Palmer has rewritten football history right before our eyes. Yesterday, the Englishman scored 4 goals in just 20 minutes. Guardiola has declared war on Arsenal. Fans of the French national team are demanding that Mbappe be stripped of the captain's armband. Bayern Munich is taking the Bundesliga's main star to spite all competitors. De Jong is fleeing from Barcelona. Manchester City has found a replacement for Rodri. Mykhailo Mudryk is leaving for Barcelona on loan. An incredible performance by Messi that brought Inter Miami the cup. Mourinho is returning to the English Premier League. Which club will Jose lead this time? Haaland is leaving Manchester City. The Norwegian has once again rejected a new contract. Manchester United failed to win again. The Red Devils are preparing to dismiss Erik Ten Hag. Mohamed Salah has not signed a new contract with Liverpool, and now he is the main transfer target for PSG. Manchester City are trying to keep Guardiola, but it seems it's already too late. Barcelona's epic comeback. The Catalans close a record sponsorship deal and move to the renovated Nou Camp. Now they have enough money for Haaland's transfer. Paul Pogba returns to football. We are talking about this and much more today. This is a hot selection of the most interesting football news. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and like this video to get more news about our favorite game. Your support is very important to us. Let's get started. Todd Boehly is rightly being criticized for his transfer policy. Under him, Chelsea has spent over €1 billion on some strange players like Leslie Ugochukwu and others. But let's finally talk about some good signings, namely Cole Palmer. He is an amazing footballer. In yesterday's match against a tough Brighton, Palmer set an England record by scoring 4 goals in the first half. To be precise, it took him only 20 minutes. No one has achieved such a feat before. So many football legends have passed through the Premier League, it's hard to count, but only Cole Palmer has managed to score 4 goals in one half. And this guy cost Chelsea only €50 million, which is a mere pittance by the standards of European giants, unless we're talking about Barcelona, of course. If we also remember that Palmer is only 22 years old, he is very young and capable of performing at a high level for another decade. Such a sum seems like a bargain. If it weren't for Boehly's crazy and reckless spending, perhaps the world wouldn't have been able to enjoy the play of such an incredible footballer. Also, it's worth noting the absurdity and phenomenal situation at Chelsea right now. 75 million for Mudryk and 60 million for Neto are sitting on the bench behind free agent Jadon Sancho, who is tearing up the left flank of the attack. And how foolish Manchester United's management seems when they realize that they let such a great winger go to another club while keeping the ineffective Antony. Pep Guardiola has publicly declared war on Mikel Arteta and his Arsenal.
You want war?
Now we're at war, Gabriel said after the match.
This is war.
We need to provoke the opponent, push them. It's the end of the match. What can you do? We all heard it. Are you provoking us? Fine, Guardiola said. That was the reaction of the City manager to Arsenal defender Gabriel. Frankly, it's strange to hear something like this from Pep. But all this post-football behind-the-scenes drama has long been a part of the show called Futbol. So why not attract attention to yourself and your team? Although some of you might say that such talks are unworthy of a head coach, especially one like Pep Guardiola. We want to remind you that the match between Manchester City and Arsenal ended in a 2-2 draw. Perhaps that hit Guardiola the hardest. He was clearly frustrated. He really wanted to take all 3 points in this game. Well, let's see if there's any development in this story. Manchester City is still at the top of the league table. With 13 points, Arsenal is in 3rd place, with the Gunners having 11 points. Guardiola also confirmed that the team has lost Rodri for at least this season. This morning, he underwent surgery on his cruciate ligament and partially on his meniscus. He will be ready for the next season. This season is over for him. The City press service reports his words on social media. In connection with this, rumors have emerged that the citizens will be looking for a replacement for one of their team leaders. For example, Interlife reports that Manchester City will attempt to acquire Inter midfielder Hakan Çalhanoğlu. The source even reveals some details about this transfer, including its cost. This transfer could cost the citizens around €50 million. Çalhanoğlu's market value is $45 million. His contract with Inter runs until 2027. We don't know how worthy Hakan will be as a replacement for Rodri if we consider his purchase in this context. It will be hard to assess this transfer, but overall, he is an excellent player and can definitely provide help. The question is how interesting this move will be for him. He understands perfectly well why and for what reason they want to take him, and what will happen when Rodri recovers, what place in the team he will occupy then. Or are all those talks that the Spaniard will swap Garage for Real Madrid true? In general, the potential to move to a club like Manchester City is a good opportunity. However, there are also pitfalls in all of this. Again, it's worth remembering that Çalhanoğlu will be 31 years old. Perhaps his next contract will be the last in his career. So this question should be approached with great care. At Inter, he is a leader, at least one of them. He is loved by the fans. Additionally, the team is fighting for all possible trophies. Yes, Manchester City pursues similar goals, but we wouldn't expect him to become some kind of key player for this club. Guardiola's team is just too good and deep. Bayern Munich intends to intercept Florian Wirtz from other contenders for this player. The club has set itself the goal of acquiring the midfielder at any cost and is ready to offer 100 million euros for him. The Munich team expects that the price tag for him will drop slightly this summer compared to what Bayer wants to receive. Let's remember that they value him at 150 million euros. But, as is well known, the less time remaining on a contract, the cheaper the player becomes. There is much talk that Wirtz's new team could be Real Madrid. This is linked to the possible transfer of Bayer's current coach, Xabi Alonso, there. Allegedly, Wirtz, in addition to strengthening the squad of Los Blancos, will be a kind of gift for the new coach to make things even sweeter for him. However, for Wirtz himself, this may not be the best option. After all, competition at Real is fierce, and who knows how his fate will unfold at this club. Bayern also has its share of players, but in this regard, it's a bit easier. Again, Wirtz is German, and as we know, Germans aren't particularly fond of leaving their homeland, much like Italians. Yes, there are exceptions, of course, but there aren't many. Additionally, the opportunity to play for Bayern has always attracted them more than for other teams. The thing is, not all of them are needed by the Munich club, but when such an opportunity arises, there are almost no willing to refuse this club. So who knows how this story will end if Bayern fully engages in this transfer duel for Wirtz against other contenders. Meanwhile, Barcelona's head coach Hansi Flick continues to dodge questions about a new goalkeeper for his team and whether one will be signed. It is quite possible that Iñaki Peña will be the main goalkeeper throughout the season. Why not? He is training well and has already kept a clean sheet. Moreover, it's good for his confidence. Signing another goalkeeper? I don't know what will happen. We'll have to wait, said Hansi Flick. Journalist Matteo Moretto reports that Szczęsny will still join the Blaugrana, and the club is about to announce it. Who knows, maybe by the time you're watching this video it has already happened. However, he clarifies that the Pole is initially being taken as a reserve goalkeeper. That is, if Peña performs well, then, as Flick said, he will be the main guardian of the Blaugrana's goal throughout the season. And Wojciech will serve as a kind of insurance in case something goes wrong and will be ready at any moment to replace his young colleague. Overall, the decision isn't so bad. Throwing Peña into the deep end in the sense of making him the main goalkeeper without a fallback is a risky move. But having an experienced keeper like Szczęsny for this situation is an excellent idea. This way, the fans can sleep peacefully, and it will be psychologically easier for Peña himself when he understands that not all the burden of responsibility rests on him. But if Barca plans to rely on him in the future, he definitely needs to be given a chance to prove himself. Continuing the topic about the Blaugrana, as reported by Football Insider, the club is ready to pay Frenkie de Jong 18 million to leave the team in the summer. 18 million is the amount owed on his salary, so these aren't just random numbers cited by the press. De Jong's contract with the team expires in 2026, so now is the best time to sell him. Otherwise, the team risks losing him for free in the future, so time is working in Frenkie's favor here. After all, he will not sign a new contract, but will simply see out this one and leave as a free agent, which is, of course, not in Barca's interest. And paying these very 18 million would be more profitable to have the possibility of selling him in the future. Apparently, this is what the plan is. At least that's how it seems to us. Frenkie earns close to 40 million per season. He costs the club very, very much, although if you delve deeper into the situation, these very 18 million he wants are exactly the amount that was previously deducted from his salary. Essentially, he is asking to be paid according to the original contract, not the new one where his salary was significantly reduced. So in a way, his demands are fair. Bartomeu made a mess back then, but that's not de Jong's problem. He is simply, as they say, a hired worker. Right now, according to Transfermarkt, the Dutchman is valued at 70 million euros. Perhaps selling him at market value would suit Barcelona. But overall, it's a strange decision, to invest so much money in a player and then try to offload him. But this is Barca. Such things sometimes happen with this club. On the other hand, in support of the Catalans, we want to say that de Jong's transfer did not turn out to be revolutionary for the team. Yes, he's a good player, but nothing extraordinary, and also injury-prone to boot. So maybe the decision to sell him would be the right one. Previously, teams from the EPL were interested in his services. A lot was written at one time about Manchester United. How things stand now, whether MU still desires to buy him, we find it difficult to say. And what do you think about selling Frenkie? Is it the right decision, or should he be kept at Barcelona? Share your thoughts in the comments. We will be happy to discuss this with you. Meanwhile, we move on to the next block of news. While Mbappe is trying to pave his way to the status of a legend at Real Madrid, a rebellion is brewing against him in France. Fans no longer want to see the forward as the national team captain. Supporters would prefer Antoine Griezmann to lead the team. So where do such shifts in the local public's mood come from? Of course, first and foremost, they were influenced by Mbappe's unsuccessful performance at the European Championship, where he looked lackluster even against the backdrop of the French national team's pale play. Secondly, he is suing his club over some paltry 50 million euros. Because of this, in the opinion of French fans, Mbappe does not deserve to wear the captain's armband in the national team. But let's be honest, the Turtle has already shown himself to be a leader of this team. I still vividly recall that video where, in the World Cup final, Mbappe gave a speech in the locker room between the first and second halves. After that, France came back from a 0-2 deficit and took the match into extra time. Mbappe absolutely deserves to wear the captain's armband, even though several veterans have been in the team longer than he has. By nature, he fights for the national team and takes negative results to heart. Even at Madrid, he quickly became the person whom others listened to in the star-studded locker room. Therefore, I doubt that Deschamps will yield to the crowd and take the captain's armband away from the forward. As for me, everything will remain the same despite the growing discontent. Inter Miami defeated Columbus Crew and won their second official trophy in history. The Supporters' Shield is awarded to the team with the most points in the league. In the Eastern Conference, it was Columbus Crew chasing Inter but ultimately missing their chance at the award. The Barcelona four of the Herons all took the field. Lionel Messi was absolutely the best. He opened the scoring with a rather peculiar goal after a long pass. How was the little Argentine allowed to receive the ball like that? Both the defenders fell asleep and Jordi Alba made a perfect pass. Later on, Leo scored a brace with a magnificent free kick, calmly lifting the ball over the wall and curling it right by the post. Another Messi free kick goal, his 66th, now one more than club owner David Beckham. Columbus tried to close the gap, but their defense couldn't handle the pressure. The visiting defense practically gifted a goal to Luis Suarez. The Columbus keeper caught a lob in his own box but was taken out by his own center-back, and El Pistolero simply finished the ball into the net. Defense in MLS, as we know, isn't great. Inter also struggled, conceding 2 penalties for handballs. Columbus, even with a man down, managed to equalize, but the Herons' keeper, Callender, saved the second penalty. Even with a numerical advantage, Inter looked very poor. The team cannot play in a low block, and that, by the way, will be telling in the playoffs. Mark my words. But somehow they held on for those precious 3 points. A 3-2 victory and the title, thanks to Messi's top performance. Manchester United extended their winless streak once again. This time, the Red Devils couldn't beat Porto in the Europa League. The match ended in a 3-3 draw. We will succeed. Judge us not now, but at the end of the season. We are in the process, and we will improve. We reached the finals in 2 seasons, and we will continue to fight. You can see the atmosphere and the connection between the coaching staff and the team. The players are united, they are strong in spirit, and they want to achieve something. We have a good mentality, but in some defensive aspects we need to be more proactive, said Manchester United's head coach. But for Erik, as always, everything is under full control. Everything is going according to plan. Nothing changes here. Meanwhile, all the media are buzzing that he is about to be sacked. Let's stay in the English Premier League for a bit longer, especially since the press gives us a good reason for it. So, Manchester City once again received a refusal from Erling Haaland when it came to extending his contract. Let's recall that his current deal runs until 2027. It's not that it's expiring soon. For the citizens, it's more about getting additional reassurance that the Norwegian still wants to play for the club and to show potential buyers that you won't take him away from us, and so on. Let's call this a tactical move by the Manchester City management. It makes more sense that way. Haaland and his agent's reluctance to sign a new deal is due to disagreements over the release clause, specifically its value. Haaland's side wants to be a bit crafty here. Supposedly, they will extend the contract, but the release clause will be only £100 million. This seems like a sort of insurance in case a club like Real Madrid wants to sign him, making his price as accessible as possible for new teams. It's to avoid a situation like the one at Napoli with Osimhen, who essentially became a hostage to his release clause, which didn't end well for him. Manchester City, on the other hand, considers such terms unacceptable, and we support them. 100 million is very low. For reference, Haaland is valued at €180 million on Transfermarkt, and his market value is even higher, so asking 220 million for him would be reasonable, but here it's just 100. On the other hand, City also got him with a discount back in the day. So why not provide that same discount to the citizens now? Yesterday was a tough day for the Spanish clubs in the Champions League. Girona lost to Feyenoord 2-3. For the second time in a row in their European matches, they scored an own goal. It's genuinely sad for the Catalans, who lost key players in the summer. Oriol Romeu, who came in instead of Oriol Garcia, is not on the same level as Leverkusen's Xavi in terms of passing profile. Oriol held the whole geometry of Girona. That's why they had to call in another creative player for the midfield. They got Donny van de Beek from Manchester United for almost nothing. And yesterday, Donny scored for the first time in 2.5 years. I think even some Feyenoord fans were happy for the Dutchman. Girona lost, but it was a narrow defeat. Their loss can be called respectable. However, Atletico Madrid was simply embarrassed, losing to Benfica 0-4. Possibly the worst match for the mattress makers in the Diego Simeone era. Nothing worked out. First and foremost, the club's management is to blame. After a tough game against Real Madrid, not all the players managed to recover, and Simeone simply has no opportunities for quality rotation. And the aging Witsel in central defense, of course, doesn't help either. But the Belgian plays there because Simeone lacks a quality center-back. Remember, Ola Norman is in the infirmary after the match against Madrid. If he had played, the score would have been, at the very least, not so humiliating. But that's all theory. Real Madrid could have justified their loss against Lille in the Madrid derby, but Los Blancos have a deep bench, and their opponent wasn't as tough as Atletico's. The Dogs were fantastic. They weren't afraid to fight against the famous Madrid side at all. Carlo Ancelotti admitted at the post-match press conference that Lille played better, and it wasn't about fatigue. Real could have equalized in the final moments, but even a draw would hardly have been a deserved result. The only ones worth mentioning for Real were Güler and Lunin. Andri made a stunning double save in the first half, but couldn't save the penalty after Camavinga's handball. Eduardo completely failed the match, though the same could be said for almost the entire Los Blancos squad. Mbappe was invisible. He came on as a substitute and disappeared. Not a single shot. Vinicius was even worse. A nightmare performance with unnecessary turnovers. For Real Madrid, this match should be a wake-up call. It's time for some changes. The much-desired balance is still missing, and not even in sight, though it seemed just recently that Carlo Ancelotti could achieve it. According to Football Insider, José Mourinho could return to the English Premier League. For those who are unaware, he is currently working in Turkey, coaching Fenerbahce. And by the way, he's doing quite well. His club is on a winning streak. But that's not the point now. Everton, which recently changed its management, clearly wants changes within the team. The current manager of the Toffees, Sean Dyche, is set to be dismissed. Everton is currently in 16th place in the league. Yes, it's no longer in the relegation zone, but such a position in the standings is not some breakthrough, but rather a coincidence. The club was on a losing streak and continues in that fashion. Anyway, we've dealt with Dyche. Let's move on. So, Everton's owner, Dan Friedkin, who, incidentally, is also the owner of the Italian club Roma, is well acquainted with Mourinho and wants to invite him into his Premier League project. Reportedly, negotiations between the parties will take place soon. Seeing Jose back in the EPL would be quite interesting. Of course, it would be better if it were a club like United rather than Everton, but taking such risks would work as well. However, how Fenerbahce will react to all of this, we can only guess. But it's unlikely that this is the club Mourinho planned to stay at for long. Everton might not be a super team, but it's still the EPL. To be honest, we were initially surprised by the Portuguese's last choice. Perhaps Fenerbahce offered him the most lucrative contract. Although some of you will probably write in the comments that he's no longer wanted by anyone or something along those lines. But personally, we are not in a hurry to write Mourinho off. Everyone has their ups and downs. And if you look at his stats, he continues to win trophies with his teams. Yes, it's not the Champions League anymore, but he keeps winning various cups, which confirms his class as a coach. As for Everton, with proper funding, Mourinho could certainly restore the club to its former glory. Unfortunately, Everton's squad is rather weak at the moment, and it is unlikely that José would agree to take on the job if the new management doesn't promise him strong financial backing. In general, it's about time the Portuguese restored his top title in his craft. As we see it, it still remains, but let's be honest, more and more people are doubting it. On the other hand, if we take all the coaches who carry the top manager title, there have been plenty of failures in their careers lately too. With rare exceptions, Klopp, Guardiola, Ancelotti, they have been far more consistent. But we shouldn't forget the kind of teams they manage, and in Klopp's case, managed. So once again, we say don't be too quick to write José off. He will make his mark again, you just need to wait. Paul Pogba appealed his 4-year suspension. Finally, this nightmare is over. After the decision of the Court of Arbitration for Sport, I can eagerly look forward to the day when I can once again chase my dream. I have always maintained that I never knowingly violated World Anti-Doping Agency rules, using a dietary supplement prescribed by a doctor that does not affect the performance of male athletes. I played fairly, but I must still take full responsibility for my violation. I would like to officially thank the judges of the Court of Arbitration for Sport who listened to my explanations. This has been a very difficult period in my life, because everything I worked so hard for was put on hold. Once again, thank you for your love and support. I just can't wait to get back on the field. However, he wasn't able to fully overturn the suspension, and it was only reduced to 1.5 years. Despite this, the Italian press reports that Juventus are still insisting on terminating his contract. This position is understandable. Pogba will likely not be of much help, and even before his suspension, he wasn't showing his best form at Juventus. His second stint can't be compared to his first. And yet Manchester United once paid $100 million for him. Reports suggest that there is interest in Pogba from MLS and Saudi Arabian clubs, and Pogba and his agent are already moving in that direction. For now, all Paul can do is maintain good physical condition so that the interest in him doesn't fade completely. Barcelona is preparing to shock the football world with 2 super transfers. We're talking, of course, about Haaland and Neymar, but it's quite possible that the Catalans won't need to sell Rafinha to bring in the Brazilian. Many of you commented that Rafinha shouldn't become a victim of the ambitions of Barcelona's president, but such an outcome is entirely possible. After signing a contract with Nike, the Blaugrana will have enough money, and Neymar apparently won't demand a high salary since he has already earned over $300 million playing Counter-Strike in the capital of Saudi Arabia. The Brazilian is eager to put on the Blaugrana shirt again. He has long wanted to return to Camp Nou, but circumstances have prevented it. With Barcelona's improved financial situation, his transfer becomes possible. Besides, Neymar needs somewhere to prepare for the upcoming World Cup, and the Catalans could provide him with the necessary conditions. However, with Rafinha already in the squad and Junior's unclear form, I don't see the latter in the Blaugrana's starting lineup. But Neymar is obviously a short-term transfer, just something that Joan Laporta wants to make happen as soon as possible to bring a big-name player to Camp Nou. According to media reports, Mohamed Salah may continue his career not in Saudi Arabia, as was also widely written, but by moving to PSG. If the reports are true, the French sheikhs, if we can call them that, are willing to offer Mo a 3-year contract. Accordingly, he will not be shortchanged in terms of money either. The exact amount they are willing to pay is not specified, but it will be more than he currently earns at Liverpool. Perhaps we are talking about a salary level similar to that of Saudi clubs. When asked by journalists whether he will extend his contract with Liverpool, Salah answers quite evasively, not like someone who wants to stay with the team. I don't want to think about next year or the future. Let's enjoy this last year and then see. The most important thing is to think about one game at a time every week. I'm happy here, that's all. And this is one of the recent examples. But let's be honest, this is not how someone who wants to stay speaks. He would say something like, I look forward to negotiations for a new contract. Liverpool is my home and I want to stay here as long as possible. Or something else that people say when they are sure they aren't going anywhere. We should remind ourselves that, in all likelihood, Liverpool will not be able to get anything for Salah since his contract with the club ends at the end of this season. Unless Liverpool sells him in an urgent manner this winter, which is, of course, unlikely. Therefore, the best option for the Reds now is to try to re-sign him. But we must remember how difficult the last extension was. Money played a significant role there, and we must acknowledge that. If PSG offers a good contract, it will not be easy for Liverpool to keep Mohamed. Despite Salah's contribution to the team, he should have been sold this summer, or even last summer, when the Sheikhs were reportedly offering nearly $200 million for him. At least that's what the media reported. In that case, Liverpool could have made money and found a worthy replacement for Salah. In any case, Mo is already an aging player, and sooner or later the team would have to think about life without him. This way, they would have had good money for strengthening the squad. Now they will have to find the money elsewhere or, as previously mentioned, try to re-sign him. With all due respect to Salah, we don't believe in that. It is more likely that he will leave. Whether it will be PSG or some Saudi club no longer matters. London Chelsea is on a great run, currently enjoying a 5-game winning streak. However, despite this, their head coach Enzo Maresca stated that his club cannot compete with Manchester City and Arsenal. And here's why. I really don't think we can compete with Manchester City or Arsenal. I don't think so because we are not ready. The reason is that City have been working with the same coach for 9 years, and Arsenal for 5 years. If you want to fight for major achievements, you need time. After Arsenal beat PSG, they asked Luis Enrique, and he said the same thing, that Arsenal have had the same manager for 5 years, while they've only had 1.5 years. Well, and this seems like Maresca trying to secure his place in this team. Is it just us who think this, or do you as well? And yes, working with the same manager for a long time does not guarantee results. Erik Ten Hag would agree with that. Besides, it is not appropriate for the coach of a club like Chelsea to say that the club cannot compete with anyone, especially when it comes to the domestic league. He may think that, but he certainly shouldn't say it. By doing so, he discredits himself. He should be saying something like, we can handle anything, or we will try to achieve the maximum, and so on. Instead, it's like he is giving up in advance and making excuses for failure. Or, as we mentioned earlier, he might be hinting that he needs more time. Either way, we are happy for his team. Chelsea has finally gained momentum. We hope that throughout the season the Blues will not slow down but rather continue to improve. Messi could return to Barcelona. The Argentine was supposed to be back at Camp Nou in the summer of 2023. Laporta and his team worked hard to bring the legend back, but things just didn't work out financially. The Catalans were unable to solve the financial fair play issues needed to register Messi, and without that, the forward refused to join the team. At one point, he lost patience and signed a contract with Inter Miami. Since then, he has achieved a lot in American football. Together with Beckham's team, Messi won 2 trophies, almost became the club's top scorer in history, and led Miami from the bottom to the top, not without the help of Suarez, Alba, Busquets, and others. But the main boost for the team was, of course, Messi's move. However, in the middle of next year, the Argentine's contract expires, and who knows what could happen. Moreover, Laporta has already expressed his desire to celebrate the opening of Camp Nou with a special transfer. In the meantime, he'll have a good opportunity to chat with Messi. Barcelona plans to invite the Argentine to celebrate its 125th anniversary on November 29th. Other club legends will also be on the guest list. I am sure that Xavi, Iniesta, Puyol, and perhaps even Gerard Piqué will find time in their busy schedules to attend. In short, the whole crew that was part of Pep Guardiola's legendary Barcelona will gather. Perhaps the Catalan coach himself will come, but it's unlikely. He has too tough of a schedule with Manchester City to attend to such events. But other legends will likely attend the anniversary celebration. The clouds continue to gather over Manchester City as well. We're talking about Guardiola, who keeps hinting at his departure from the team. Here's how he responded to the press when asked if he would extend his contract at City. I'm not going to discuss this topic. What should happen will happen. I am part of this club, not just a coach. It will always be this way because my relationship with the club should not differ from the treatment I have received from day one. Whether it's a coincidence or not, City fans are raising money for a banner they want to put up with words like, "We want you to stay." It will be written in Catalan. This is how the City fans are asking Guardiola not to leave. The club's management is also trying to do the same from their side. There is a lot of talk that the club is ready to offer him a new super contract. However, there has been no response from Pep so far. His answers are similar to Salah's when asked if he will stay at Liverpool. And just like with Mo, we think Pep will leave. At the very least, he needs a break. But honestly, it's hard for us to imagine him at another club. Or rather, it's possible to imagine, but which club would be better than City? Maybe Barcelona. It's not necessarily better, but there would be more intrigue. Or perhaps a national team. Pep hasn't tested himself at that level yet. We doubt he needs a new challenge. Say, taking a club and bringing it to the top. It's not like a FIFA career, it's real football, and things are different here. What about you? Where do you see Pep after Manchester City? And why do you lean towards that